Welcome into the Energy Tech Podcast presented by OpSite Energy. Today we've got Bhavnesh Patel from RL Core joining the show live from ICC 2025. Guys, welcome into the show.
Hey, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks. I am your co-host, Mike Flores with the Energy Tech Podcast. And today, of course, we are live at ICC 2025 with Inductive Automation Ignition. And we've got our guest, Mr. Bhavnesh Patel with RL Core. Thanks for joining us, Bhavnesh.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's exciting to have you, man. You know, you were walking by talking about what we're about. Well, this is what we are about. We're about engaging the Ignition community and those that are offering solutions and how they integrate with Ignition. Before we even talk about any of that, I do want to know, Bhavnesh, a little bit about you.
Yeah.
What you do for RL Core. If you can kind of give us your 30-second, 1 minute, 2 minute, that's fine.
Happy to do that.
Yeah.
So again, Bhavnesh Patel. I lead the go-to-market function at RL Core, which is a startup in the OT software space.
Okay.
My background is in taking startup companies from 0 to 1, so just really helping scale it up and help it grow. So prior to this, I was with Infinitum and Volt 480 before that, and Rockwell Automation before that. So just a depth of experience in the industrial and heavy industry space.
Awesome. And so I do want to ask this. Now, is this your first time at ICC?
No, it isn't. So 2 companies ago, I attended ICC. This was in the 2017, 2018-ish range, and just love this environment. You know, you get a lot of energy here.
Yeah.
A lot of early adopters, people that are willing to try something new, trying to break the mold. And I just really enjoy coming out here and being part of this community.
Yeah, you know, one of the interesting things about ICC is their theme, okay? The theme is called Level Up. And so I think it's pretty appropriate. If you didn't know, you know, ICC is, well, you've been there. So they used to be there in Folsom, California. They've moved here now to have this here in Sacramento. So it's a bigger venue. They've done other things like they launched 8.3 as a new version of Ignition. You know, they've launched all kinds of additional tools and products, you know, that Ignition is proud of. So they've got this new flavor of what's called the Prove It conference.
Yep.
And I don't know if you had a chance to see that already, but that's here. And so with that, we've also added the Energy Tech Podcast. I think this is a good way for the community to kind of share what they're doing. So when you came to ICC, kind of tell me, what is it that you think personally you were looking to do? And that's all right, whatever it is, you know, hey, Mike, I think this is what I was trying to do. This is what I want to do. And I want to take something away from ICC 2025. What is that for you?
You know, there's a lot of buzz around AI, and I think there's a lot of people kind of searching for how can I deploy this. You know, they see it and use it in their personal life, but they're trying to figure out how can I do this in the real world, in my industrial process. And I'm looking to connect with those people because I think there's a lot of value we can bring to them, but in the process, we can both learn. And that's ultimately what I'm trying to get to. Awesome.
Well, you're in the right space for the community. And you said something interesting. You said that you're a go-to-market expert, okay? Or that's your mission. It is to take a product, scale it to go to market. So this is RL Core. That's what you do. You mentioned OT, so kind of where does that fit in for you, or in terms of a product or what you're doing?
Yeah, happy to maybe just give a little bit of background on RL Core.
Sure.
You know, at the heart of it, what we do is a reinforcement learning application that helps optimize various industrial processes. The company was founded by former researchers from Google DeepMind team, as well as researchers from University of Alberta's Machine Learning Institute. And so we have some heavyweights behind the technology here, and we're deploying it on these industrial processes. So everything from oil and gas to water, wastewater treatment to solar energy, and a variety of other things in between there. But what we're finding is that in many of these applications, you have 2 extremes. You have some very basic control.
Right.
The way the equipment was first designed and operated, it's, with a PLC and basic sort of on-off type of things, or maybe a PID loop. And on the very other extreme, you might have something like model predictive control, which takes, thousands of hours to kind of take an application, model it out. You have to understand train it. You have to understand first principles of that application and then go deploy it. And the challenge with that is when you change something in that piece of equipment, now you have to remodel it. And it's a huge effort once again. And our approach to this is deploying an agent that learns the process by doing. So it's almost like a human where, you don't model out the entire world, but you've driven down the road, and if you drive down another road, you can kind of recall from your past experience how to drive that road, and so you're able to kind of use that to adjust to disturbances or other things that might happen in the system.
Right. So what I'm hearing then is that the solution here is a lot of times the data's got to be contextualized. And so what I'm hearing from you is that if something changes, let's say PLC wise or what have you, then that context can go away or it can affect the model, right?
Exactly.
And so if that's the case, you're saying, hey, we actually offer a solution so that the data is contextualized and instantiated, and now it's an easier process and can be implemented in what, OT networks?
Correct. So we sit sort of alongside the SCADA systems like Inductive, and we're typically tapping into an OPC server to read and write some of our data. And what we're essentially able to do is go from data to action versus going to a model and then action. And that, while it might seem trivial at the surface, that could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of energy to go and do this modeling piece that we're able to skip, and ultimately be able to deliver value to that customer much faster.
Just you're sparking something in my brain here. So, OpSite Energy, one of our partners as an extension of the Energy Tech podcast, we operate a 24/7 control room environment. And what I'm hearing is training, and it sounds like there's potential for not just training models, but it sounds like at some point you guys are also kicking out some recommendation that's happening, right? Is it just
100%, Mike? You got it.
Okay.
So I'll give you both an analogy and then a real world case. The analogy I like to give is my daughter is 15 years old and she's learning to drive. And the first step was her observing me driving. So it's like, okay, when you want to get to a stop sign, you stop. When you see a green light, you go. But more than that, just the behaviors you have as a driver. And then you give her the wheel, and it's maybe a Sunday afternoon, and it's an empty parking lot, and you let her drive in circles, and she gets a feel for what the car does, the pedals do. But it's a very controlled environment, and you have very tight boundaries on what she can and can't do. The next step might be, okay, we're going to drive from home to the grocery store on during a slow period, and so she's got a learner's permit. She's done some parking lot training, and now she can drive to the grocery store and back. And eventually, she gets her full license and can drive. In a very similar way, that's the approach that we take with RL in the industrial space. So the first step is we deploy an agent that sits in an observation mode. So it's watching, and it's watching what your operators are doing. It's watching what the output of that process might be. So if it's a cracking process, a sweetening process, or a water treatment process, it doesn't matter to us. We're looking at those operator changes. We're looking at sensors along the way that are already typically in place. And then we're looking at what's that output that you're ultimately trying to drive to. And we're in that observation mode for a couple of weeks. And then we move to, they give us a little bit of control. So maybe an operator can adjust something from 0 to 10. We'll ask for maybe like a very 0.1% ability to change. But that ability to change is what allows us to learn.
right?
And so and then over time, we'll make recommendations to say, hey, you should set the set point for this particular variable down at this level. And ultimately what it might mean is you can use less chemicals in your process or less energy or whatever you're trying to optimize for, but you can get to that point much faster by taking a recommendation. And then as the operator in the plant gains trust, you open up that aperture wider and wider, it gives us more ability to impact and improve that process. And so we've done this now a couple of times over, again, in water, wastewater treatment, solar, oil and gas. And what we're finding is that it's getting better and better. And so there was an interesting example where we originally wrote up the case study, and we delivered 15% reduction in chemical usage in this particular application. And we let it continue to run and continue to learn, and it's continued to deliver incremental gains after that fact. So it's been, having kind of grown up in this industrial space for the last 25 years, seeing something like this and an agent that can continuously learn is something phenomenal and something I've never seen before.
Well, you have my brain spinning already, because I'm already thinking about an application inside of a compression fleet where you see the same problem.
Yeah.
That's if we're doing reinforced learning, that's the potential for something as simple as regression, and then you reinforce that, and then continue to see that model grow in compression.
Yeah.
Right, in a compression fleet. So if you're already doing this with, let's say, equipment or water wastewater, I see a pretty good pairing of what you're trying to do and how you take that to market, man. That's a big deal. What is, so in terms of RL Core, when you take this to market, is the goal here for you? Hey, we're looking for a customer that, number one, they want to solve a problem, or is it just, hey, we want to open up this ability to try this in an environment? Is that what you're looking for? Or is it more like, hey, if you've got a case where you're really trying to align reinforced learning, is that something that you're open to, or is it not necessarily working with a customer? Because you talk about, going to market with that. So
Yeah.
in what way?
Yeah, that's a great question. So part of my objective here is find additional sites where we can go deploy this. And it's really, truly, we're at a very transparently, we're at an early stage in the company. And so we want to learn and continue to develop that expertise on how to go deploy. All of our deployments have been successful, and we have a high level of confidence there. And the other part is you typically have an existing control system with safety and everything else.
Correct.
So we have a high level of confidence in our ability to go and do this safely and then also deliver on value. But we want to learn, and we want some partners that we can come with us on this journey. The other part of this is also figuring out, where do we go focus our time? Like what verticals, what applications, where is it that we should go focus our time? One of the challenges for any startup is that you have a wide ocean, and you could potentially do 1,000 different things, but you don't have unlimited resources. So you have to be selective about what you go do. And so a big part of my energy now is trying to figure that out by talking to a lot of the subject matter experts that are here. Then the final piece, and this is where the system integrators come in place, is how do we leverage their expertise to ultimately go deliver the solution? And haven't figured out the exact answer, but do we enable them to go take the software, because it is so out of the box, unlike some of the other applications options available in the marketplace? But do we take this? Do we leverage them to take this to market? And so, trying to answer some of those questions as part of this this.
Wow. So, as part of that process, how do you see a potential client? Because what I'm hearing is we're looking for a system that, number one, is intrinsically safe, right? That's always key, because you're going to learn a lot, right? Intrinsically safe is, I've got 3 daughters. I'm a father of 8. Okay.
Oh, wow.
My oldest son is 30. The youngest is 18. And every single one of them has learned to drive. And I'm the final reinforcement, you could say. I'm the person, if they can pass with me driving, me as the passenger, they're doing great. I guess what I'm getting to is that, you're looking for that intrinsically safe. And what does that look like when you're engaging folks? I know you talked about integrators, and you mentioned, so right now, the Energy Tech podcast does reach out, and we do have a reach with oil and gas customers that want to do 2 things. They do want to solve an operational problem, and it sounds like RL Core has a potential to provide what I call while you're doing some reinforced learning, you and I both know that we can still create a time to value, a shorter time to value anyway.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's going to happen in 10 days, but what we are saying is that with reinforced learning and with a solid data set in an intrinsically safe environment, you can learn pretty quick. So is that what it looks like? I mean, if someone's got that potential to do that, how do you I guess the question is, how does that look like? And second is, how do you engage with that customer? What's a good way to do that with you?
Yeah. So just in terms of what applications would work, it's exactly what you said, which is an application where they're looking to improve that, optimize that in some way. So whether it's the energy consumption being used,
right,
whether it's the materials being used, like chemicals, for example, in the process that might be expensive, if they're trying to reduce that. So anything that they're trying to optimize is one where we could play a role. We've traditionally focused primarily on continuous processes versus batch.
Right.
And then that's generally where we want to stay, but we might entertain something on the batch side as well. But that would be just at a high level, the applications we're looking at. What we see in all of these applications, and in pretty much every industrial application, we're looking for, every operator, junior operator has some amount of control.
right,
The amount of control that we're asking for is a thinner slice of that.
Got you.
And so we're not, in terms of the safety risk, it's a very minimal amount
Right.
for us to be able to start learning. And as the operator feels comfortable giving us more leeway, we expand that over time. So it's
Correct.
not something we're saying, hey, overnight we want full control of your machine. It's a very iterative process where,
Right.
as we deliver value, they see that we're not turning things harshly on and off, or it's a gradual implementation and ultimately a gradual time to value. But unlike some of the other options, we can get to the time of value much faster.
Right. Yeah. So I think, again, I see the potential
Yeah.
just in my mind with everything from alarm management, anomaly detection, and picking up the process in compression fleets, the same process that you would find. It sounds like you're staying away from batch, so that focus there is the data types where you're. It sounds like you are touching a lot of some time series, right? Is a real big piece of the reinforced learning that you're looking at, and what are some of the industries where you're seeing impact right now?
Sure. So just to touch on the batch versus continuous, we can certainly do batch as well.
Right.
What we generally see is that the value of us making an improvement tends to be higher in those continuous process applications. And so it's more of a
Return on the investment,
Yep.
the ROI.
that, as well as fundamentally our technology was developed with a continuous process in mind.
I see.
So that's one of the reasons why we were kind of focused on that. But we could certainly do a batch as well. Sorry, I missed the second part of your question there.
Yeah, so that's mostly what industries are you seeing some immediate impact?
Absolutely. So there's been three applications, or three industries that we've focused on. Not three applications, but three industries that we've focused on: water, wastewater treatment,
Okay.
solar, and oil and gas.
Oil and
And
gas.
so in the oil and gas, it's an upstream application. It's in the oil sands in Alberta.
Okay.
In the water, wastewater treatment, it's both water treatment for clean water for drinking water, potable water, as well as wastewater treatment. So before you put the wastewater into the river, you got to treat it, and there's a number of steps involved there.
Correct.
Associated with that, there's also an H2S scrubber, so removing some of the the smelly parts of the effluent that's coming out, and making it more feasible to kind of live in that area. And then the third one is around solar. So one of the wastewater treatment plants that we're working with has a solar array. They have some battery storage, and the rules in that jurisdiction don't allow them to generate power and put all of it back on the grid. There's also a factor of
Peaks.
peaks,
Peak periods.
and so we have to balance between using as much as we can on site for the operation of the facility, storing what we can't, and then making decisions based on financial inputs. Do we dispatch it, or do we use it for the facility, or do we store it? And so that all goes into that RL piece of the equation.
That's exciting, and I think you're solving some topics. Man, I'm actually excited about it more than you think. I just we don't have a whole lot of time. Trust me, otherwise we just keep you here. If someone wants to engage you, what does that look like? We're definitely going to have a link.
Yeah.
Is there a process? Hey,
Absolutely.
we definitely wanted to try an ROI or something like that. Kind of walk us through that if someone was said, hey, we really want to engage RL Core.
Yeah. So, reaching out to us would be the first step, but we have a checklist that we go through, and it's a series of questions that we ask that are both technology related as well as operational related.
Okay.
So, in terms of technology, it's your usual, do you have sensors in place in key areas of this process? Do you have a sensor at the end of the process? Because RL it's an agent where we're essentially rewarding it. So when you hit the target that you want, you're rewarding this agent, and it's incentivized to go get more rewards. And so we need a sensor to kind of provide that feedback to say, you've hit the target, you get a reward, now go do this again. So having those sensors in place, and then a data collection system, and then that OPC component, or the ignition system in place, is extremely helpful. The process piece of this is asking questions around what is the variability you're seeing. What are some of the challenges you're seeing, and if we were able to reduce it, what would that mean financially? Because at the end of the day, if we're going to be able to reduce something by 15%, but it's only $1,000 savings, maybe it's not the right application for us or them to engage in. But if it's something
Right.
that we have the ability to go truly deliver some value, then that's something we need to go focus on. So we have a checklist that we go through on that upfront engagement process, and then ultimately what we'll do collaboratively with the customer is just figure out if this is the right fit, both from a technology as well as an operational perspective.
Wow. So what I'm hearing is the potential for some return on an investment and leveraging reinforced learning and an easy way to identify if you fit the mold, especially if that's what you're trying to accomplish with RL Core, right?
Correct.
And, I think we want to have you back at some point on the podcast.
Yeah.
And we're out of time, but we definitely have to get you back and talk about your case studies. You've got a proven product.
Absolutely.
You've got some case studies, and we want to see you come back with that. And with that, great to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
That was awesome. I'm your co-host, Mike Flores. Don't forget, like and subscribe here at the Energy Tech Podcast, ICC 2025 in Sacramento with RL Core.